I want to start this video off by saying I loved the Beyblade World Championships. Seeing all of these different countries and regions going at it was just so much fun to watch. I mean, Metal Masters is my favorite season of Beyblade, and that's largely due to this tournament. I really liked the team aspect of it, and I really loved how we had so many interesting and unique characters from all over the world. Also, so many detailed subplots were playing out on the side, like Subasa's story and then Toby's story, just to name a few. So yeah, I loved the Beyblade World Championships. But was it perfect? I don't think so. Now, I wouldn't say anything is really wrong with it, but let's put it like this. If I were one of the head writers of the series, I may have switched up a few things. So, just for fun, in today's video, I'm actually going to be rewriting the Beyblade World Championships. Now, I know that sounds like a tall order, basically rewriting all of Metal Masters, but let me explain. I'm not rewriting it from scratch, and in all honesty, I'm not going to change a crazy amount of things. The tournament is still going to have the same general structure. I'm not going to change any teams, and I'm not even going to change the winner. So yeah, Gang Gang Galaxy is still going to win the tournament. I mean, come on, main character. But their path to the trophy is going to look a little different. So, before we jump right into my altered edition of the Beyblade World Championships, let's talk a bit about why I'm even making this video. I mean, why rewrite something that I already think is fantastic? Well, there was always one specific aspect of the World Championships that I wasn't a huge fan of, and it has to do with Gang Gang Galaxy. Now, by no means am I saying I dislike the team or its members. No, I actually really like Team Japan. I think all the members are pretty likable characters with solid development. My issue, though, is that they always seemed invincible. What I mean by this is, out of all of their matchups throughout the tournament, I never once felt like they could actually lose. Maybe that's just a main character Jenga thing, but I don't know. Like, I know they faced struggles behind the scenes, which made things interesting, but still for me, it was kind of the classic, hey, the main character and friends are on this team, so we know they're gonna win. And that's okay. I'm not upset that they won the trophy, but it just felt a bit predictable at times. Even if we look at our close matchups like Excalibur, Starbreaker, or even the Wild Fang match, which is as close as you can get, it went an extra round, I still felt like we just knew Gang Gang Galaxy was going to pull through, even if it didn't make a whole lot of sense. So, for my new and hopefully improved version of the World Championships, I'm going to try and fix that issue of Team Japan feeling untouchable. So, without further ado, let's just hop into this altered version of the World Championships. Like I mentioned previously, all teams are still the same, and so are the matchups for now. This means that Gang Gang Galaxy kick off their World Championship campaign against Wang Huzhang. And nothing's going to change here. Japan is still going to win this match. And then it's on to the second round with Lavushka. They win this one as well. And as we could recall, Team Japan are feeling pretty good about themselves. I mean, they just won the first two rounds. But then that leads us to the infamous Wild Fang matchup. And just like all of my other What If videos, it seems like, this is where the first change is going to come in. In this third round, I'm actually going to have Gang Gang Galaxy lose to Team Wild Fang instead of winning like they did originally. Now, I know what this looks like. Wild Fang Edits is giving Team Wild Fang the win. Who could have guessed? But bear with me. Obviously, this matchup was a classic, but the way it played out didn't sit right with a lot of people. Kiyoya literally trained for months with the sole focus of beating Jinga. I mean, he was training to get stronger, but he wasn't just getting stronger for the sake of getting stronger. He was doing it so he could beat Jinga. So all of these new moves that he made in the back of his mind were constructed for the purpose of countering Jinga. I mean, Kiyoya in this match is probably the perfect counter for Jinga, or as close as you can get to it, because that's what he trained to become for so many months. And the fact that he did all of this and he got so close just to tie, I mean, it just bothers some people. So, in my timeline, Kiyoya is going to beat Jinga, and Wild Fang gets that 2-0 sweep, and they're going to move on to the A block final. And this would ordinarily mean that Gang Gang Galaxy would be out of the tournament, and they'd be out for real. They can't enter the wildcard bracket because remember, the wildcard is just for the losers of the first two rounds, and in this scenario, Team Japan loses in the third round. So they just missed the wildcard, and now we have a little problem. At the beginning of this video, I said Team Japan would still win in my timeline, yet they're out right now. So to solve this problem, we're going to make a small change. The wildcard bracket is now going to include the losers of the first 3 rounds of the tournament instead of just the first 2 rounds for the sole purpose of keeping Team Japan alive. So, Wild Fang are off to face Team Excalibur in the final, while Japan are having to start all over again from square one. Now, Team Japan in the wild card It's obviously a very different path than just winning every single matchup like they did originally. So, why did I do this? I didn't do it just because I'm a Kyoya fan, and I also didn't do it just for the sake of changing things. I genuinely think that having Wildfang win this matchup and sending Gang Galaxy to the wild card could be better for the story. I mean, for starters, Team Japan's win over Team Wildfang was always controversial. We already talked about how some think Kyoya should have beat Jinga, but even if we disregard that, the final 2v2 has some issues as well. It very conveniently took Nile a long time to charge up his special move, which led to their defeat. And to be honest with you, that just doesn't make sense. When his move was first introduced, Madoka didn't even have time to analyze it on the laptop. It was just too fast. No one was able to see what was going on. But now, in this 2v2, he has to charge it up? I don't know. I mean, even if Nile was tired, I don't think it should have taken him that long. So anyways, if we just give Kyoya the win against Jinga, it gets rid of both of these controversial matches, and I think it would be better for the story. Now, if getting rid of those two controversial matches was the only benefit from making this change, I wouldn't do it. The main reason I gave Wildfang the win and sent Japan to the wild card was so we could experience some adversity. I think it would be really good for Jinga and the team to get, I guess, humbled like this. They were feeling really good after the first two rounds, maybe a little overconfident, and a loss like this would bring them right down to earth. And look, I know they already had that loss to Julian at the Festival of Warriors, which I guess humbled them, but I think actually losing in the tournament would work so much better. I mean, especially losing to Kyoya. I mean, there's so much history there, and just think, Team Japan really got swept by someone who tried out for their team, made the team, and then left to make his own team. A loss like this would sting, and it should seriously motivate Gang Galaxy. And from this point, they'd treat every battle like it could be their last one, and they'd take everything seriously. After all, without the wild card, they'd be out of the tournament. So now we'd get to see a laser-focused Team Japan scratch, claw, and fight their way back into the tournament. They'd probably face Desert Blaze, Team Shandora, and Team Wang Huzhong once again. I'd assume Team Gang Galaxy versus Team Wang Huzhong would be the final of the wildcard bracket, because those are the two best teams competing. And look, a second matchup between them would be very interesting, especially because Deshayan would definitely switch up the battle order. But regardless, Gang Galaxy would win, and they would take Wang Huzhong's spot in that battle against Excalibur before the A block final. So we now have Team Japan versus Team Excalibur, and the winner goes on to face Team Wildfang in the A block final. Now, we've already seen Team Japan beat Team Excalibur, but let's be real, that was a very different Team Japan from even just a few rounds ago. In the Excalibur matchup, they had Jinga with Stardust Driver, and they had Tsubasa, who beat the Dark Power and became a lot stronger. The reason for both of these buffs was Ryuga. I mean, he helped Jinga master Pegasus, and he helped Tsubasa master the Dark Power. And I'm not going to change any of that. Ryuga is still going to help them, and therefore Team Gang Galaxy will still win against Team Excalibur just like they did originally. We can even keep the same order. So Masamune versus Klaus, then it's that 2v2 of you and Tsubasa versus Wales and Sophie, and then it's Jinga versus Julian, and Team Japan win. So it wasn't easy, but Team Japan have climbed their way out of the wild card and back into the tournament. Seeing them start all over again from square one would be really cool. But anyways, they're in the final now, and their opponent is none other than Team Wildfang. If you think a second matchup would be boring, think again, because Jinga and Tsubasa are both stronger now, and Team Japan would be determined to avenge themselves after losing earlier in the tournament. As for matchups, I could see Gang Galaxy switching things up. In their last meeting, Masamune lost to Nile, so they might throw out Tsubasa first. And that would be very interesting. I'd assume it'd be difficult to get Masamune to step down. You already know he'd want that rematch. But I think he'd understand that it's for the better of the team to let Tsubasa go first. So, a first round matchup of Nile versus Tsubasa, and keep in mind, this is purified Tsubasa from the Sophie and Wales match, so no Dark Power, he's significantly stronger. Both are laser-focused, strategic bladers, but with that being said, I have to give the win to Tsubasa. It would be very close, but I think he finds a way around Nile's defenses. And look, post-Dark Power Tsubasa is like a sneaky top-tier Metal Masters character. When you think of top-tier Metal Masters, the team leaders come to mind, but Tsubasa is honestly right there with them. So once again, it'd be close, but 1-0 Team Japan. Then we have the highly anticipated rematch of Jinga and Kyoya. There's no way Jinga's passing this one up. He's gonna want to get even with Kyoya after losing. And look, this one's gonna be a thriller. I mean, it's Jinga versus Kyoya. And so, after a long, hard-fought battle, I think I'm gonna have them tie. I know I was complaining about the tie that happened in the real timeline, but a tie at this point in the story, I don't think would be controversial. Let's look at it like this. Kyoya barely beat Jinga in the third round. Jinga then gets stronger thanks to Ryuga. They have a rematch, and now Jinga ties with Kyoya with this new power boost. It just makes sense. So this way we have the awesome spectacle of these two rivals tying, but it won't feel a little cheap, kind of like it does right now. Anyways, that's my take on it. But now we move to the third match. And this one goes one of two ways. Either Masamune fights Benkei or Demore, or it's a tag team match with you. I know originally Team Japan opted for the tag team match because they were low-key scared of Demore, but I think they play things differently now. First of all, there's little to no chemistry between Masamune and Yu. As opposed to Yu and Tsubasa, there was a lot of chemistry there. Yu and Masamune just don't have that. So I guess it's not the smartest decision to send them out together. But also, Team Japan has the advantage this time around with Tsubasa's win. So instead of being down a match like they were originally, right now they're up a match. So I think they just send out Masamune. Because look, even if Demore ended up being really good, Japan would still be chilling. Worst case scenario for Team Japan is Masamune battles Demore, and it turns out that Demore is a beast, and Masamune loses. This would then lead to Yu versus Benkei, and Yu's gonna win that. The other possibility is Masamune versus Benkei, and we know that's a straight up win. So either way, Gang Gang Galaxy will get the job done, and they win the A block final. This would wrap up the Gang Gang Galaxy Wild Fang rivalry, the rivalry between the two teams, not necessarily Jinga and Kyoya, that's eternal. But Team Japan comes out on top, and Kyoya fans walk away more satisfied than we are now. So yeah, let me know what you think on that matchup, but not just that one, this combined with their first matchup. Do you like the idea of Kyoya getting the win because he probably deserved it, but then later on Jinga gets stronger and that's when we can have the tie? I think it's a pretty cool compromise. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. The only other thing that's going to change now is Team Wildfang versus Team Starbreaker, and then we still have Team Gang Gang Galaxy versus Team Brazil. So I know in the past I've said Team Wildfang would win against Team Starbreaker, and I still stand by that. But to avoid a trilogy of Gang Gang Galaxy versus Team Wildfang in this video, we've got to give Starbreaker the win here. In this timeline, we'll just say Jack is a little bit stronger, and we'll say that he beats Nile, and then we could have Kyoya beat Damien, and then in the third match, Zio would beat Benkei or Demore. I know Nile versus Jack is a close match and it's worth talking about, and I honestly think Nile could win the match, but my hands are tied. If I give Nile the win here against Jack, and then Kyoya wins against Damien, then the next round will be Wildfang's third matchup with Team Gang Gang Galaxy in this video alone. 3 matchups is just one too many. I draw the line at 2. So, Team Starbreaker advances to play Japan after beating Team Wildfang, and everything else stays the same. Well, except for Damien. With Damien losing to Kyoya, he loses some of that aura that he had from the Julian match. And that matters a lot because him thoroughly destroying Julian is what made us realize he's the real deal. He's a legitimate threat. But if he loses to Kyoya before he faces Jinga, it kind of decreases the hype of that matchup. And in my new timeline, I still want Damien to feel like a massive threat. After all, he is kind of the final boss of the World Championships. So here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to say that Ziggurat was saving Damien's final arrangement for the final battle, which would ultimately be against Jinga. So basically, in this semi-final match versus Kyoya, Damien doesn't have the full power of the arrangement, and he's sort of an unfinished product compared to what we're gonna see in the final. So the timeline goes like this. He'll lose to Kyoya, but Starbreaker will win the matchup. Then Damien will go back to Hades Inc. Ziggurat will give him the full power of the arrangement. Then we'll have that scene where Gang Gang Galaxy are training at the track. Ryuga's there. Damien's going to pull up. And now he has the full power of the arrangement, so he's going to flex that strength. He's going to injure Tsubasa and Yu. This way, we still see him as a threat. And honestly, in this timeline, it might be good for him to have like a mini clash with Jinga. And this wouldn't be some long battle. They'd just exchange a few attacks and Damien would leave. But basically, Damien injuring Yu and Tsubasa, and then for the short amount of time Jinga clashed with him, Gang Gang Galaxy would realize, hey, this is not the same Damien we saw lose to Kyoya. This guy is on another level. And that has to happen. We need Damien to seem like a threat going into this final battle. So this way, him losing to Kyoya won't really matter. We'll still see him as a massive threat because he just dismantled Yu and Tsubasa, and he's seemingly levels more powerful than what he was in that Kyoya match. But yeah, for this final match, Team Japan versus the USA, everything stays the same. Masamune loses to Zio, Ryuga steps in and beats Jack, and then Jinga beats Damien. And with that, Team Japan win the World Championships. So if you compare this to their run in the original show, it's really different. Of course, originally they win every single matchup, and granted, most of them are close and it's all entertaining, very good battles, but I think making them lose to Team Wildfang and sending them to the wild card would have been very good for some of their development, and it would have just been very fun to watch in general. One, it gets rid of the controversial Wildfang matchup, and I think it would just humble the team, make them focus. I think there's just a ton of benefits from doing that. So let me know what you think about that decision. Let me know what you think about making Damien weaker in his battle with Kiyoya, and then beefing him up for the final with Jinga. I think that does a decent job of still preserving Damien as a threat, but not making Kiyoya lose to Damien. But yeah, that's the video. Everything post-World Championship stays the same. Nothing changes. The good guys still take out Faust, and they save the world. So, what do you think of my executive decisions? Overall, is this a better version of the World Championships? Let me know which one you prefer, the original or my altered version. If you have other ideas for your own version, be sure to let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.